The aircraft might get a lot bigger over the course of your career, but the fundamentals, as far as how you navigate the various systems and enter a flight plan, use the autopilot, a lot of that is going to remain the same.
Michael, you've been nice enough to talk to me all the way back from Oregon as you flew these RV-12s. It's a little unusual for somebody to buy 4 RV-12s in a short period of time and move them all the way across the country. What's the deal?
Well, these RV-12s belong to Rexair, which is
like the shirt says.
Like the shirt says. It's a flight school that's currently here in Naples, but one exciting announcement, we're going to be opening a new location in Sebring, Florida, and it's going to be structured differently. It's going to be a professional pilot academy.
Aha! So here in Naples, you've got a long-standing flight school. It's been here for quite some time.
We do.
You can see behind us, there's Cirruses on the line. There's 172s and the RV-12s. In Sebring, will you have this variety, or will the pilot academy be just the RV-12s?
The pilot academy is going to be just the RV-12. And it really is perfect for that use, for training people initially to learn to fly and then to walk through the various ratings they need to fly professionally, for a couple reasons. One reason is it is so fuel efficient. You don't have to spend nearly the money on fuel that you would if you were flying, say, a Cessna or a Piper. So that allows us to offer the academy for a very competitive price.
So you're saying in a flight school environment, the economy of the engine actually translates to a cost savings for the student.
It does.
It's not profit for the company necessarily. It allows you to get that cost down to a more affordable level.
One of our biggest priorities was finding a way to make flight training affordable for students that do want to go all the way and go that professional pilot route. And so the RV-12 was one thing that allowed us to do that. Also, being a technically advanced aircraft, it allows students to get all the certificates through the commercial.
That's one of the things that really intrigues me. You know, the knock against LSAs is often that they're not very capable. The reality that y'all just flew them from Oregon to Florida, the last trip, in just 3 days.
Right.
That's a pretty capable airplane. That's impressive. But one of the things I would be attracted to, and this was not an option when I was going to flight school a bazillion years ago, I can do my sport, my private, my instrument, my commercial in the same airplane.
Yes.
I can keep getting more and more comfortable with the systems in this one airplane and become more knowledgeable. I know how it feels. I know how it reacts. My confidence goes up. And as confidence goes up, likelihood of success goes up. Do you think that's all valid, or is this just me being a dreamer?
No, I think that that's completely valid. I mean, the amount of familiarity that you'll have with the aircraft as you go through the different certificates and ratings. And also, even though it is such a small, light aircraft, I mean, the systems that it has a Garmin G3X, so it's all glass cockpit, and it also has a 2-axis autopilot. So you're learning to use the kinds of systems that you would be using on a much larger aircraft as well. So it really is setting you up for success in the future.
And one of the things that I find interesting about this, in general aviation, there's been a big push for a number of years to comply with EPA standards and get lead out of the fuel, because people really do worry about the lead, and 100 low lead, that's a lot of lead. You're ahead of the curve in that. When you're using the Rotax 912, you can use unleaded auto fuel. So you're already ahead of the curve on that, using unleaded fuel in these airplanes.
Exactly. Yeah, we really are on the leading edge, you might say, of that movement.
When somebody comes out and they're doing their initial flight training, or even if they come out for a flight review, or they're time building, they want to buy a block of time and fly a relatively inexpensive airplane. What's the reaction like when they were expecting to see a 50, 60-year-old Cessna or Piper on the line, and they see a brand new Vans RV-12?
The reaction is great. I mean, just looking at the airplane, it has ramp appeal, and it looks more modern and sleek than a lot of those, older aircraft that you might see at other flight schools. And so people tend to react very well. I mean, everything is very modern. It's very technologically advanced, and we flew them straight from the factory, so you don't get much newer than this.
Yeah, you picked them up with pretty much 0 hours.
Right.
That is something. Do you want to give us a little bit of a tour? Oh, we got to wait for the jet departing. Naples does have jet traffic.
It has a lot of jet traffic.
Would you be comfortable giving us a little walk around of the airplane, showing us some of the features of what's different or desirable or just that you happen to like about this cool airplane?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Yeah, so this is the pitot right here in the front of the propeller. It's not on the wing like a lot of aircraft have it. All right, so it's an all metal aircraft and it has LED lighting. Also, as you look at the flight controls, you're going to notice something that is different from a Piper or a Cessna. And that is that you don't have ailerons and flaps. Instead, you have a fun combination that is called a flaperon. It's a very nimble aircraft. And part of that as well is that instead of cables, you have push rods. And so that makes it incredibly maneuverable. Oh, also, like a Piper, this has a stabilator instead of an elevator. So it makes this an anti-servo tab instead of a trim tab. Also, the RVs have a Rotax engine. So 100 horsepower, liquid and air cooled. This is the Rotax 912 IS, which is fuel injected, unlike some of the earlier models, which were carbureted. We've got the Garmin G3X here, which has the 2 displays, and it gives you access to anything that you would need during a flight. So as you can see here, we have the taxi diagram for Naples Airport. We've got all the engine information. As you scroll through, we have charts, so you can follow along as you go. Waypoints, you can find information on any airport as you're passing it. Also have a flight plan. You can check the weather. We have NEXRAD radar. There are also terrain alerts, so you can identify how tall any relevant terrain is along your route, which really enhances the safety margin. You have traffic alerts, so you always know who's flying around at any given point, and various other information. Really anything that you might need to know while on a cross country is simply at your fingertips. It's all touch screen, easy to use, and it really enhances your situational awareness. On this side, you've got the primary flight display. You also have navigation information on the bottom corner. You can just click and go for a split screen, and then you have multiple displays right in front of you. The aircraft might get a lot bigger over the course of your career, but the fundamentals, as far as how you navigate the various systems and enter a flight plan, use the autopilot, a lot of that is going to remain the same.
Let me ask you a devil's advocate question. One of the challenges that people in their teens and 20s are having today, and it's highly publicized, is they're going off to college and incurring massive debts, $80,000, $100,000, $200,000, and finding out on the other end there isn't actually a job there that will repay that loan in a reasonable amount of time. One of the knocks against aviation is flight training is expensive, and it can get to 6 figures.
Right.
Is it really practical to tell an 18 or 20-year-old this is a good way to go? Is there really a job on the other side of this flight training program?
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the great things, especially about the market right now, is there is such a high demand for pilots that you are pretty much guaranteed that if you go through a program like this, when you get to the other end, there is definitely going to be a job waiting for you.
And it tends to be, well, like any other industry, entry-level pay is not spectacular. It's not unheard of for pilots, corporate, charter, airline, freighters, to get well into 6 figures. And we're not talking about 20 years away. We're talking about 5, 10 years away.
Right. And even entry-level pay has really gotten dramatically better than it was just in the past few years. I mean, you can make a lot more now as a first officer than you could 5 years ago. But you're right. The salaries then only continue to rise from there, to the point where once you reach that place where you are an experienced airline or cargo captain, you can be making impressive amounts.
Now, did you start out as an aviation geek? Were you planning on being an airplane pilot from the time you were 16, 17? Or did you do something else and segue into aviation?
I have always wanted to fly. So being a pilot was always a goal of mine. That being said, initially, it wasn't something I'd intended to do professionally. I actually started out as an accountant in the medical field. And
I'm not making fun of you for that.
Oh, no. But I learned how to fly on the side. And as soon as I got my pilot certificate, I knew that it was something I wanted to pursue further because it's so much fun.
That's such a common story. I don't think people realize that. You started out as an accountant. Pat Brown learned to fly as a teenager, but he made his career in the music business and then shifted into aviation as his interest and tickets grew. I was a musician living in New York City, had no intention of shifting jobs, and I ended up doing this. I've had a whole career as a flight instructor and really enjoyed it. Many of my friends from flight school went on and they fly for the big freighters and the airlines, that sort of thing. It's just fascinating to me how many people start thinking, like you when you were young, gee,
Right.
flying is interesting, but that's not what I'm going to do for a living. I'm going to do this other thing. And then over time, you start to realize I have an enormous amount of autonomy as a pilot.
Right.
I can be outside, I can be in the airplane, I can run my own schedule to a large degree. Even at the airlines, I bid what I want to do, and I may or may not get that bid, but I don't have to go where people tell me. I can say I want to go do this. It's a remarkable industry. One last question about Rexair and the academy you're starting in Sebring, because
Sure.
this fascinates me. Typically, you'll see an academy startup or an academy existing, and that's a Part 141 program.
Right.
Very rigid, very good, and that qualifies for funding. So you get student loans. You're making a conscious decision to do a Part 61 program. What's the benefit in that from your perspective?
Well, what we really wanted to do is to represent the best of both worlds. So, a lot of what people like about a Part 141 program is that you do have that structured kind of curriculum as you go through.
You've got a syllabus that
You
you're
have
following.
a syllabus, exactly. And that we are going to have. So, in that sense, we're kind of like a 141. However, with the Part 61, you get so much more flexibility in the way that you do things. And we also wanted to capture that. We didn't want to be one of those more rigid academies where you just have to fit in with their structure and their method or you're kind of out of luck. We have a highly personalized experience and we will work with people because we realize that every individual is different. People don't learn the same ways, and that's important.
So you're planning to build an academy that in some ways acts as an academy where
Yes.
there's this big structure, but in other ways acts like your local flight school where I know your name and I'm your flight instructor and we're going to work together to find your success.
Exactly. We are intentionally keeping our class sizes small
Mhm.
because we don't want people to feel like they've become a number when they
Mhm.
come to Rexair. We really want to give them that personal level of attention.
I like it. And of course, I'm a big proponent for Florida. I think I should be on the state's Chamber of Commerce board or something. There's a reason flight training has been going on here since the early days of aviation. The weather is fantastic.
Right.
And we have all these facilities. The talent pool is here. So it really is a great place to come. And I did this. I mean, I moved from New York City to Florida to learn to fly because I could fly here twice a day.
Right.
I could just knock it out. And instead of spending years, and I was a student pilot for 2 years up north, I was a student pilot for maybe 4 weeks here and then just knocked it out. And within 6, 8 months, I was a CFI, double I, MEI, off on, I went and I'm working. That part really, that's what I love about Florida. You can just get it done here.
Agreed. And it's one reason that when we say that the program will take 8 months, we can say that with so much confidence because you do have that year-round flying weather. So you can make good use of that. Also, Sebring, even within Florida, makes such an ideal location. You've got a big airport. It's in uncontrolled airspace, which really allows you to be able to utilize your time each lesson. You can just hop in the airplane and go. But that being said, it's nearby to a lot of different types of airspaces. So students will still get that exposure to Class Delta and Class Charlie and Bravo and all the communication experience that goes along with that.
That's fantastic. Michael, I can't thank you enough for spending the last few weeks letting us tag along on these ferry flights and telling us about Rexair, welcoming us to the hangar here. It's just been terrific. I do appreciate it. I've known Michael a long time. He's the real deal. And if you have any interest in this, I really would suggest you give him a call, drop him a line, find out how this might fit into your future. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But this is kind of neat, and I'm going to hold you to it. We're going to fly one of these in Sebring. I'll pay for it, man. I want to go flying in this thing.
I would love nothing more than to be able to take you in a flight in an RV.
Michael, it's a deal. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jamie.
We'll see you next time right back here at MadPropsAero. So leave a like below if you would. Share this video with your friends so they know how cool you are in your investment in aviation. And of course, subscribe to the channel because just like Pat and I, Michael is very, very lonely. We need the friends.